Welcome to Blue Monday, or this week, due to a sort of schedule, not mix-up, but we did that on purpose anyway. It's Toffee Tuesday, so you'll be seeing this or listening to this on Tuesday. The byline would have already been out on Monday. I am joined as ever by Dave and Rodger. Bit of housekeeping first, obviously. If you're listening to us on a podcast, please do leave a rating and a review. If you're watching us on YouTube, again, subscribe, leave a comment, give us a thumbs up. All that caper, it all does help, and we're very appreciative of it. We're going to kick off with just a look at the Arsenal game, really. You know, Everton get another draw to so that's what, one defeat in 9 or 10 games. I think it was a decent draw overall, a reasonable draw, but I think the one thing that stood out for me was just how frustrating Arsenal are to watch. What do you think, Rog?
I know you must live inside my head. I've been saying it forever. I've got plenty of friends. I've got a brother-in-law who's an Arsenal fan. I can't watch them. I mean, they just bore the pants off me. And I don't just mean time wasting. I just mean passing and passing and passing and passing and going absolutely nowhere. You know, there must 2-3 times, maybe more, they had throw-ins near our penalty area, the attacking penalty area, and they throw it back to the halfway line and round to Raya, to the keeper, to the... Oh God, they're tedious. They're desperately, desperately tedious. I wouldn't pay to watch them. I genuinely would. They're second in the Premier League. They're in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. I wouldn't pay to go and watch them. I find them a really, really tough watch. Matt said the same in the post-match, didn't he?
Yeah.
Matt Jones. I don't know what Arteta's. You know, he doesn't seem to have a plan B, and his plan A is pretty tedious. You know, that we've played them twice, taken 2 points off them. They've scored 1 goal against us in 3 hours of football. I appreciate that we are good at the back, but, you know, it's Arsenal. They're second in the league. And we deserved at least a draw, although the penalty was questionable, as we might come on to.
Yeah, we'll come on to that.
Yeah, they're a funny team. I think they've got a good defence. You know, I think their back four is probably as good as anyone when they've got Saliba and Gabriel, Timber, Lewis Skelly. You know, they've got really good defence, and their keeper's excellent. But I think far too much is made. Did I not say this last week? I said it. Oh, I know where I said this. I said this to the lost episode of The Weekly with Warren in the pub just up the road, that there was a problem with the audio file. I think I made something of an outrageous statement, but I would stand by it that Martin Odegaard isn't all that. You know, he passes the ball a lot, but really? You know,
I mean, when he came on, he didn't really affect the game too much, as I remember when he came on. Dave, where are you on that? So, you know, Arsenal have got a lot of talent in that side, and I did feel that playing without like a recognised striker did cause our defence a little bit of a headache, because you never quite know who to pick up if you've got that sort of interchangeable front line. But they do seem to just want to completely slow the game down, don't they, to a walking pace, and then kill any momentum anywhere during the game. It's weird. That's how I felt about it.
Yeah, I think the bit of a one-trick pony. I think, you know, if they haven't penetrated through a defence at up to certain points in a match, then I think what Rodger was saying, spot on, where they just seem to go from forward to backwards, forward, and it's really tedious to watch. You know, I did when I watched Arteta quite closely, and when I have watched them at their best, it feels like the sort of the light version of how good they were under Wenger. And you think about what they were like when they had Henry, and when they even had Viltord and Carnu and players like that. Even the later years of Wenger, when they've had, you know, they even brought Henry back, didn't he, when he was pretty much retired and stuff like that, but still were able to utilise him. I just think it's a hard watch. The only thing I disagree with is I think Odegaard's really good. In fact, the reason why I think your point is valid in him is that I don't think they utilise him in the best way that they possibly can.
Maybe, yeah.
And I feel that they use Rice far too much. There's a lot of reliance upon Declan Rice. Not much happens around him on the side or the flanks unless Saka's playing. He's a top-class player, you know, and he'll be so relied upon when they haven't got a striker as well. But even when they did have one, you think of Havertz. I think it's really interesting that it's that saying, you don't know what you've got till it's gone, because a lot of their fans absolutely hated Havertz, and I didn't think he was all that as well. But then he's the type of player that you give you like a minute of brilliance in a game and go and win you something. but he'd only do it, I don't know, like 1 in 5, 1 in 6 maybe. He wasn't going to be a top-class Premier League striker. He certainly wasn't at Chelsea, which is why they let him go. You got Gabriel Jesus as well. He's got to have a lot in and around him as well to be as effective as you want a Brazilian striker to be. But overall against us, I felt that, dare I say it, they were quite easy to contain for the bulk of it. And then by the same side of things, I felt that we didn't capitalise on the fact that they looked quite quiet throughout it and quite sort of not really up for it. A bog standard early kickoff that most people hate. It felt like the players were channeling that to us as we were watching it as well. And with ourselves, I just thought we lacked being able to really take advantage of what was in front of us. And I feel as if that with Arteta himself. By the way, he said some lovely words about Goodison.
He did, before the match he did. I thought that was lovely.
It was really nice what he said. To add to what he's doing, he does seem to me like he's only going to be someone who's second all the time. He's the bridesmaid, never the bride. And it feels like he's got something else about him that just isn't quite there. And I was listening to, I had to edit his press conference ahead of Real Madrid tomorrow or tonight, and he was talking about the importance upon the game and the importance of it upon his career. It's the biggest match he's ever had in football management. Now, whilst he's a young manager, I still wouldn't be saying that much to put that level of pressure on my side, and I think that's quite naive as a young manager. And you think about the experience he's got when he's with Pep Guardiola for years at Manchester City. I'm pretty sure Pep Guardiola wouldn't be going around saying to everyone, right, lads, this is the biggest game potentially of our career, and it's only the first leg of a quarter-final. Let's keep a little bit tempered on it. Let's pull it back a little bit. But I didn't think we were at our best, certainly since we have been under Moyes. I know it was another draw, wasn't it? A ridiculous amount of draws. We've got 14, I think, now. Out of the 30-odd games, 31 games, 14 draws, which is crazy. I felt like that was there for the taking. It just didn't seem like we could properly get to grips with the game, and it just passed us by a little bit.
Yeah, I think just on that, Rog, it's like Dave said, it's like the 14th draw, and I've said a few times that's kind of what keeps you in this division if you can turn those defeats into draws, and that's very much what David Moyes has done. It does feel like after we definitely had quite a nice new manager bounce there to pick up the amount of wins we did. It does feel like he's kind of running out of options now, doesn't it? It feels like he sort of got the best out of this squad that he possibly can. Probably a case to throw Chimiti in there, maybe.
Moyes or Arteta?
Moyes, I'm talking about.
Moyes. I was going to say no. The reason I said that, like, you could compare the similarities.
I suppose so. Yeah. I think there's a case to maybe give Chimiti some game time over starting Beto. Now, he did start with a Rubenham. It was thought faded quite quickly in the game, to be honest, but he is coming back from a bit of a layoff. So, do you think Moyes is possibly? I don't want to say he's taken us as far as he can. I don't want to roll that one out after a few months. But do you think he's probably got as much as he willed about this squad?
Maybe. Let me just come back to Dave on the old Arteta against Ancelotti tomorrow. I mean, what a sliding doors moment that is, because in that December time, it was who's going to get. It's Arteta and Ancelotti. Roll the dice. One's going to Arsenal. One's going to Everton. Hey ho,
Yeah.
Things could have how different point. Things could have been. I think Moyes might be just believing his own unnecessarily conservative narrative of we're not safe yet too much.
Yeah.
And I see Rodger saying that post match, there's a lot more from me to come. Well, there won't be, mate, if you don't get picked. And I'd like to see him being given more time. Chimiti possibly, but Chimiti's under contract, is he not still? So he'll still be around. If Broguer's got anything, about ambition to stay at the club or to be taken up or even have a loan renewed, we need to see something from him, a couple of 90-minute performances, a goal or two. Irabunum's interesting. I didn't think he had that good a game. I think Garner could consider himself quite unlucky to be dropped. Maybe he was carrying a knock. I thought he played well at the Devils Club. And I think also maybe the whole Alcaraz thing. I mean, I messaged you guys beforehand. What the hell? Harrison's on the pitch and Alcaraz is on the bench. Something's gone wrong.
Yeah.
Is it because the Alcaraz starts are linked to us having to pay money for him, and we don't want to commit to that? Quite possibly. So yeah, I'd like to see Davey take the handbrake off now and have a go. I'd like to see us beat City between now. That City game at Goodison. That would be a great way to end. I remember that one with with Tom Davis scoring back in the day. Do you remember that? 2017, Koeman's first season. We beat them 4-1, I think, and Tom Davis off the bench, and we were heading for the stars.
4-0, that one, Rodger.
Beg your pardon. We normally concede a late one. And so I'd like to see us beat City because, I watched them yesterday. Jesus Christ, do you think Arsenal are bad to watch? Oh, it's got to be the worst game of the season. I've sat down and had the unfortunate privilege to watch that Manchester derby. Terrible, terrible stuff.
Yeah, we'll pick back up on that in a minute.
Okay.
On a wider sort of conversation about sort of where the game's going and this current sort of cycle of tactics and formations that we're in. I'll just pick up on another couple of points on our game before we go.
Yeah.
Penalty, as you said at the start, Rod, you said it wasn't a penalty. I thought it was a penalty in the ground. I've seen replays and it's like, I can see how it wouldn't be given. I can see how it would be given. Again, like the non-red card at Anfield, I'm surprised it was given because it was us at Goodison. But yeah, it was nice to have one go our way, wasn't it? And is there a worse keeper of penalties than Raya?
No, he certainly gives the game away, doesn't he? And I thought Njai did really well. He was stood there for a while with the ball. Nobody protecting the penalty spot. Did very well, slotted it. I mean, I don't understand what VAR's for. I don't think any of us do. But a clear and obvious error is it a penalty or not? Was it a foul? That's the first question. Was it a foul? In my opinion, sadly, it wasn't a foul. However, blew my nose. But equally, why was the Liverpool goal given? And I don't understand why that was given, because he was interfering with play. So the game's gone because I don't understand the rules. I really don't understand the rules. I thought it was a harsh penalty, but I'll take them every day of the week because that probably still puts us about 90 odd in deficit in terms of going our favour. And not go in our favour. So yeah, it's funny. I was just thinking that we were talking earlier that you guys in the ground, you're watching this thing live. You're paying good money to watch it live. I'm watching it from the comfort of my living room, and I have a better view of what's going on than you guys do. There's something a bit wrong about that.
Yeah, it doesn't seem right, does it? And another one of those incidents was
particularly with the controversial moments. Particularly with those controversial moments. That it almost takes you 24 hours to see it. Yeah.
Yeah, there was that as well, because we were all in the ground and no one around us had even seen what happened.
No,
we just saw the referee walk over to Jake O'Brien about to take a throw in and he booked him. Now, when they put and that's one of the most thankless jobs in the world, by the way, doing the tweets for the PGMOL, the VAR tweets. My God, they just state the obvious on those. But on this one, it appeared to say that the referee had booked O'Brien on VAR's sort of say-so.
Yeah, which they can't do.
Is that because they can't do that? Can they?
No, they can't. It's only violent conduct which could lead to a red. You can't just go, oh, that's a booking. You've missed it. I don't know. But play didn't, it wasn't a free kick given. I mean, he does throw Ben White to the ground, however theatrical it looks. It's, they looked, was it violent conduct? It wasn't violent conduct. Therefore, no red card. Therefore, play on and continue as they did with the throw-in. I didn't think they could recommend a yellow card. That's
no, me neither.
New one on me.
Just making it up as they go along again, Dave.
Yeah, I was thinking this, like, you got to the stage of the season now where the league's won, relegation's done. Is this the point where they're just doing half-assed things and seeing if they work or they don't work?
Everything was half-assed, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The games, the two teams were half-assed, and the VAR was half-assed. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like that in the derby as well. I think that was mostly half-assed, to be honest with you. That's just not to cry one in for us, but we got the translucent bloody thing going over offside decisions, haven't we, coming next week, is it?
Was that next?
I think
so.
I
thought you were talking about our tops. I thought you were talking about Les's orange and my luminous fluorescent.
It's when you put the blur feature on behind you, that's the old translation. You look like you're sitting there with plastic over your head.
Yeah, for anyone not watching, anyone listening on the podcast, Rodger is a vision in mint, and I am a vision in peach. We've gone full pastel here.
Yeah, I still look like I'm a goth. Yeah, I mean, it is on that point with the VAR stuff. I mean, we could have the same discussion about what issues in it or not really. But that what you made there, that point about yellow card. I don't know. I feel that if he gave that decision, it was a yellow card. But it's only a yellow card if he chooses it to be a yellow card. It's not a yellow card if it comes back from VAR to say you've got to go and book him now because it wasn't a red.
And also if he gives the foul.
Yeah, I don't.
Exactly.
I've no idea how that is. It's any penalties that are meant to be altered, isn't it? No free kicks or anything like that. So that's another new one to throw in the shitter. But, it's just. I think when it starts happening now, I think eventually if it stays this way, people are going to move away from football. I think it's getting that bad and that unfair, and it costs people points, games, leagues. It's gonna do that, and it has done, hasn't it? It's cost. You think about referee decisions that we can only talk about again for several hours a day, couldn't we? About Everton decisions against with refereeing injustices and various things. I mean, this hasn't done us any better, has it? I can't. When did it come in? VAR, was it 2018, 19? Something. It was before COVID, was it?
No, it wasn't before COVID, was it?
It was after COVID, I think.
COVID, yeah.
Just actually like 2021, something like that. I mean, it feels like it's been there forever, doesn't it? Because it's been that shit to actually to have, and it takes away any sort of enjoyment from a game if you're still. And I think now I'd like to see somebody, maybe the statistics out there, the percentage of goals that go in where you have to wait and see the VAR have approved from it, because that takes away so much of you being at a football match and so much you supporting football. Because that should be raw emotion that you get from that, and that I've different doing it in the past when it looks like Everton have scored a perfectly good goal. We've counter-attacked the side. When Beto scored against Crystal Palace that game, scored a great goal, great ball from Alcaraz, and I thought normally I'd go ballistic that we've gone and scored, particularly away from home, which aren't we're not exactly like fantastic at scoring goals away from home, and I remember sort of had to be a little bit tempered before I started celebrating, because I thought, got to check VAR here first. And then the worst thing about all that too was the same what happened in the 2-2 derby. That it's almost like, and I feel this way anyway, any game, regardless of when you've seen it, they consistently take longer to check it because it's almost as if they want to change it. And that's what feels like such. And how many opportunities they've taken to alter VAR, to be able to do different things with it. And it's not like they haven't got the technology all over the place. The only thing that they've stopped, to my memory, is the little crap drawings that they do with lines. Like they've done it with a pencil rather than the lines they put on when it's not parallel to the pitch and all that stuff. I mean, how amateurs you want to get? You get kids who do a better job than that. But yeah, you
were right, by the way. It's 1920 that it came in, season 1920.
That's astonishing to me. That's crazy to me.
So it was in when we got that goal disallowed against United. When Sigurdsson was in then.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And like I say, then it feels longer than just over 4 years, doesn't it? It's ridiculous, really. And I've been asking that fans the very same question of, would you scrap it just to go back to just bog standard referee and bog standard linesman who've made some woeful decisions, certainly that's gone against us in our history? And I think the answer's emphatically, you would. You'd take this off and you'd go back to the way it was.
Do you know what gets me worst about it? Do you know what annoys me most about VAR? That they're all sat there in their fucking tracksuits.
Yeah.
In front of a telly.
Yeah. Like they've got the shorts on.
They've probably got shorts and boots and socks on as well.
Yeah. I'd love to see that. I would love to see that. Do I'd probably enjoy it more if they actually had to do that,
Set up with the flags and everything. VAR, though, it's not the only, and here's my seamless link, it's not the only thing that's shit about football these days, because football itself feels a little bit shit sometimes. Rodger, you mentioned before about the Manchester derby. Grim game. Gary Neville, you sent us that in the chat. Does an excellent rant on how bad it is. It's like, you got teams passing it around, they're scared to do anything for fear of losing the ball, and you've got players feeling the same, that they're scared to do anything on their own. Sort of. I mean, I think every generation of football fan has said, "Oh, it's not like the old days. There's no Mavericks anymore." Every football fan will say that. We had, recently for fellas who are 30 years of age now, we had the Barclays man stuff recently. Sort of, isn't it? Whereas mine was the 90s. You know, you don't get fouls and you don't get thunderous games like you do in the 90s. But it does feel like, you know, styles come and go in football, formations come and go. But this does feel like there's a lot of teams that just trying to play, and I think Gary Neville said it well, a sort of watered down version of Pep Guardiola's Barcelona.
Yeah.
And you know, when you look at the standard of player trying to make football a very difficult game to play, really, because it is reducing it down to like a very, very technical sport, isn't it? Not just individually, whereby you've got to have a good touch and a good pass, but you know, team-wise, where you've got to like make very specific runs to keep this pattern of play going. Does it bore you to tears, Rog?
Some of it does, yeah. Some of it does. I think I was put onto this by Capello having a pop at Guardiola, and I thought this is quite interesting. What's he said here? What happened was Guardiola went to Roma at the end of his career and had a bit of a falling out with Capello because he wasn't running around enough, and you know they didn't kind of hit it off particularly well then with the coach and player coming towards the end. But what Capello said was that, you know, there's been basically these key moments in football, Johan Cruyff, you know, that version of football, and then Arrigo Sacchi's Milan and Guardiola's Barcelona, you know, through 09-10, and Neville refers to that, and what a wonderful team they were. But actually, you know, and that's, I think my first problem with this happened with Spain winning the World Cup or the Euros in 2010. Would that be the World Cup in 2010?
It was South Africa, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2010. That Spain won, and then you know there was that ridiculous challenge by Nigel de Jong in the final. Was it Nigel de Jong in the final with the sort of studs up into the chest of one of the Spanish players?
Heitinger.
Heitinger, I think.
Yeah. De Jong's done a similar one. He did that. I can't remember, but he did that as well. I can't remember what game that was. But he did almost an identical one.
He might have been playing for Man City then, which would have been quite ironic, I suppose.
That might be funny.
But that Spain team in that World Cup, I couldn't watch them. They bored the pants off me. They passed it forever. And the media love them. That's their 4,000th pass in the final third without a goal, you know. So, yeah, I got a bit... I mean, of course it was successful, and that Barcelona team was wonderful, winning 2 Champions Leagues. But it's a kind of thing that you have to have quality players, real quality players to do it. And Neville talks about, you know, the second season for Guardiola where, you know, he had David Silva at the heart of it, and you know they were able to do things with the football. You know, they had Mahrez, they had Sterling, they had Aguero. I think the importance of Aguero to Manchester City is underrated. I know they've still won things with Haaland, and obviously won the lot last year, but or 2 seasons, you know, winning the Champions League and everything, and 4 leagues in a row. But you know, I just think lots of people have copied it and they don't have the resources to do it. And actually, I don't think right now Pep has the resources to do it. And I don't think Arsenal have the resources to do it. I think Dave's absolutely right with Declan Rice. I think you need a very special group of players to play in that way. Rather like the Brazilian team in the 1970s. It wasn't just Pelé. You needed Jairzinho, Carlos Alberto. You couldn't then just bring someone in off the bench and go, can you be Carlos Alberto for today? You know, these are real special players that can make... there was an article about Foden today about how he's fallen off a cliff. And yes, he had a decent season last season, didn't have a good summer with England, and has never really been able to inherit the David Silva mantra, you know, a mantle rather. And so, yeah, I find that passing without purpose and going all the way back, almost from the attacking corner flag all the way back. Very few 1-2s are played, very few players try a one-on-one. Moments of individual brilliance, you know, just sit back behind them. If it's that easy, you know, we went to Arsenal and got a 0-0 quite comfortably, really, didn't we? You know, away at a ground that we have an appalling record. And I think you need to adapt, and coaches like Carlo have adapted. Coaches like Alex Ferguson adapted. You know, and I really struggle to justify. You know, if I had to justify paying to watch Manchester City at the moment, paying to watch Manchester United, God, they're a tough watch. Arsenal and others, you know, I'd watch Tottenham for comedy value, and I would probably watch, you know, a Brentford, a Bournemouth, a Brighton every now and again. I might pay 30-40 quid to watch them, but I couldn't watch a whole season of Arsenal or City in this current iteration. I think it requires a very, very specialist group of players. And this nonsense with goalkeepers, you know, Neville talks about this, rolling the ball and looking for someone and looking to play a quick 1-2. How many goals have we seen this season in the Premier League where the keeper's trying to, you know, play a Zidane pass and slipping on his arse? It's suicidal.
So, I mean, styles have always changed, haven't they, over the years? So I think in the 70s, a more defensive style of football came in, and teams started playing more defensively instead of like sort of free-flowing attacking football. So that's more synonymous with the 60s. Back pass rule was obviously brought in to kind of negate that, so you couldn't just keep passing it back. Coincidentally, Liverpool didn't win the league for 30 years after that. Maybe there's something in that. But then
Ray Clements' long ball had a lot to answer for. Yeah.
It does feel like now we're in a similar situation here with the goalkeepers in particular, whereby the ball is played back to them, particularly if they're playing high out the area. It's like there's a standoff between the striker and the goalie, because the striker thinks, if I run towards him, he's just going to pass it. But if he doesn't run towards him,
and the centre backs have split to go almost into the corner flags.
Yeah,
that's what City had that when Stones first went to them. Everton were doing that. That was it was massively criticised of doing it under Martinez, saying, "What are we playing at here?" And
that's when he told the park end to calm down, isn't it? That's right.
Yeah. And Besic, I think Besic did it, and like you give him the ball. Gareth Barry, as good as Gareth Barry was, you'd still be quite quite scared when the ball gets put to him when he's on a half turn and he's got any midfielder sort of charging into him. You're thinking they're going to go the other end and score. But I think that some really interesting points you're making there, lads, about the way football is these days, because I think the way I view football in general is the various like world-class players or managers, it goes through in chapters, and those chapters change because they're able to have an ability to be able to alter things when they absolutely need to. I feel if you look at that Barcelona side with Pep Guardiola there, now I think the argument you can say there is it's effectively like the Scottish Premiership, because it was Barcelona and Real Madrid. I know when Atletico came forward, that's when it became really, really interesting, because I'm a really big fan of Diego Simeone, because I think it's really lazy. You can tell you haven't watched Atletico Madrid if you say that Simeone is a side that only has 10% possession and they don't play good football. It's absolutely nonsense, because if you watch them, they're a top-class side, top-class outfit, and each of those players are drilled into what he wants to see. And that is very different, and it's a rarity to what we see now. But the point you made, I just wrote a few things down here about United v City. I think the other side of the coin is, I feel as if so many sides, more so than ever before, even the ones that aren't in the risk of going down, so say like the bottom 6 sides in the league, are desperate not to concede more than they want to actually score a goal in a game. And it feels to me, you mentioned Brentford, you mentioned likes of Palace, Brentford, Bournemouth, who've been everybody's darlings this season, and they are great to watch. It's brilliant to watch them because they've dared to tip their toe into the water. They've dared to have a go at these sides. You think about Bournemouth probably should have won that FA Cup quarter final against Manchester City, because they put the foot down on them. They look at who they're playing and they think, do you know what? These are shite. And obviously they're not shite, but when they're looking in and around themselves, they're thinking, do you know what? We can do these. We try this a little bit differently. And they've got an exciting young manager. And I think it's really interesting. You get the likes of him. You get Thomas Frank as well, who I'm a huge fan of. They're starting to be the next sort of batch that are coming through. When you start
and
to see
at Palace as well. Glasner
absolutely,
Palace as well.
and
they've all
you're
got pace on the pace.
Correct.
Sorry, Dave, but they've all got pace. Semenyo and there, and you've got Sarr and Eze at Crystal Palace, and that pace on the counter attack that they have. Brentford, Bournemouth, Crystal Palace. That's the key. And if you can win the ball high up the pitch or around the halfway line, you're away. And that's really how Liverpool have done it a lot. Liverpool score goals from corners that they're defending because they break like lightning.
Those are the sides you mentioned there, though, have actually have the bottle to go and do it.
Correct.
And I think that's something that we'll certainly have to learn. I mean, as good as and as much we've praised David Moyes to this point, that's the next step. That's involved in the next step for me when you're able to think, you know what? Because we didn't have the greatest away record with David Moyes, did we? In his in Moyes 1.0, we had quite a generally poor away record. Lot of draws, but similar to where it is now. And you're saying that sort of feeling that whatever sort of saying you want to go with, but he never fully pulled the trigger when Everton went away from home. It was more, we get a point from here, it's good. We win our home games. that's your bog standard season under David Moyes. I want him to change that. I think he's got the opportunity to do so this time. But just going back to that City United game, sort of a final point on that. It was so poor because I felt that United were adamant not to concede because they wouldn't score themselves.
Of course
and
not.
City simply aren't what they used to be.
No.
And when I refer to that term in terms of having chapters, it looks to me that, for want of a better term, Pep Guardiola's got a book where he can't turn the page. It's stuck together. He can't turn the page to be able to get where Manchester City need to be to develop. They've got world-class players. They've got Haaland. Haaland can win most teams a league, predominantly on his own and rounded by a load of average players. But there's things that people have got used to at City. There's a thing that he was able to change at Barcelona in order to outdo Real Madrid to win Champions Leagues. City, and it's happened quite quickly, hasn't it, in the last 18 months or so? People have thought, you know what, we watched them a little bit longer on our VHS or whatever it is they've got. We watched them a little bit more than that, and you can see, do you know what, these aren't everything that everybody turns them out to be. Let's go and have a go at them. Lo and behold, they've gone and got results.
Yeah, I think we said in our sort of pre-season preview, didn't we, that I think most of us agreed it was going to be a bit of a transition City, at least a transition season for City, at least this season, because it did feel that that sort of cycle was maybe coming to an end. And hopefully, when you're saying like, the sort of up and coming managers and the sort of out of the big six teams like Bournemouth, Brighton, Palace, Forest as well, who are playing that sort of quick counter-attacking football, that could be the way to go. So just to bring it back to Everton for the final bit, obviously David Moyes hasn't really implemented any sort of style on this team at the minute. He's just kind of put the team together in a formation and a way of playing that will get results. Obviously, he's going to have to bring that on again next season. First one from me, just to bring it back to Alcaraz, come to you, Rodger, on this.
Yeah.
There's definitely a danger he's not playing because we don't want to trigger that release clause. Now, cynically look at that and say, yeah, typical Everton, that, isn't it? Being tight, don't want to trigger that release clause. But realistically, they need to know that they definitely want to keep that player. Now, as much as we like him and as good as we think he is, I'm not convinced he's a David Moyes type player, because if he's going to play in that 10, Moyes usually likes a bigger fella there, doesn't he? Someone with more presence who can hold the ball up, flick it on.
Yeah, it's a good point. I'm trying to think of either who the equivalent would be for West Ham, David Moyes' West Ham, because he's not really a Souček. He's not really a Jared Bowen. I couldn't find a comparator. And then who is he in, the Moyes 1.0 at Everton? He's not a PNR. Is he Cahill? I'm not sure he is. I have to say, I've been a little disappointed with him. I haven't seen enough of him. I haven't seen as much of him as I would have liked to. But I haven't. He's had a couple of good attempts on goal. Yeah. He's had a couple of nice little flicks that, unless you watch the whole game, you don't necessarily see. And I haven't. Maybe he's like a 6.5, 7, and I was expecting I think 8.5 from him.
I think the issue is, I think he's playing him off the left, isn't he?
Yeah, but is he a 10 or is he an 8? I mean, I
think his best game he had was against Palace, wasn't it? Where he played down the middle as a 10, I think.
Yeah,
in that game.
Yeah, very good game. Really the ball he played to Beto was exceptional. That was his best game, undoubtedly.
Yeah, I feel like we've got a player, and it sounds like I'm doing him a disservice here, but I think he looks brilliant under the eye. But it's not quite the same when you look at his performance versus that. He's got pace. Let's say he's not rapid, is he? But he's quick, and he's got a little bit of steel about him as well, which I've liked watching him quite a bit for that, because he's anytime there's a bit of a scrap, he'll be first over there.
Yeah, I'm all over the Argentines in midfield. We need a couple of them.
The South Americans come over and are not bothered about getting a red card, are they? No. And I feel as if I think it fits in with the part of what we said there with Moyes being overly cautious to sort of open the door a little bit and try and Everton get out, step through the door and start playing as best you can, because there's no better time to do so than now when we're safe. You want to see those final 7 games where he goes and does that. With that in mind, you start that lad. You start him every game, see what he's about here. I think Moyes, as good as he's been for his changes since we've last seen him, there's still elements of what he's got that I don't think he'll ever change from, and that will be with signings and players that we end up getting in. you think about the Dither and Dave saying and all that sort of thing. That decision on him should have been made by now, comfortably been made on Alcaraz by now, because we've seen, like you say, Rodger, you're right in terms that we haven't seen enough of him, but we know what he's about.
Yeah.
And I feel as if that probably you could probably couple that up with that we don't fully know what his best position is going to be. I think you get players whose versatility goes against them, and I feel I've seen that quite a bit with him now because he's looked handy in various spots, and I'm thinking, do you know what, you keep him there, you stick him there, and then other times I thought, well, do you know what, he'll move him out somewhere else where he hasn't been as effective, but that might well be his natural position, and then lo and behold, we're at a stage now where he doesn't start games. I think I'm edging towards Moyes doesn't fancy him as certainly a starter for the side, which you would then put onto. I don't think they fully have confidence behind going to release that clause and sign him, which is a great shame, really, because I think the style of kind of player he is everything that fans love. Younger fans love it. Younger fans love seeing players on the ball who can run with it and create chances and score goals. Everton aren't that side yet. Everton aren't that side that have players like you mentioned there, Pinar. They haven't got ones there who you're happy to release the ball to and let them go and do what they want. You've got Ndiaye who does it. I think he's the closest we've got back in then. And it'll be interesting to see what Moyes' development and there's some sort of evolution from what he's been like. And the signs that we've seen so far since he's come back are there that he's done it. He's graduated, if you like, to modern day football. When you've seen what he did at West Ham, went and won them a trophy. But I think what's kept in my mind with that is they ended up hating him and wanting him sacked. And that's not going to happen at Everton. Well, hopefully never happens at Everton.
Not until next October.
Yeah, exactly. Not until we've cocked up another transfer window and we've got a bit of money to spend. But it certainly feels like, from what we've seen, I'm pretty sure all of us would agree that this is a different David Moyes. This is a different Everton that we're going to get playing compared to the one that was so effective when you can't be that way these days in modern day football. So to that end, I think that's why he'll be reluctant to sort of say, yeah, I definitely want this guy. I think if he's not getting starts now constantly, if he's not one of the first names on the team sheet, I'm edging towards more of concern that Everton decide to go and get him permanently.
Yeah, I think we have to trust Moyes. If we trust him, if we trust him, he's seeing him 5-6 days a week on the training ground, and if he's not doing it on the training ground, whether that's working hard enough or showing enough skill, or passing the ball accurately and consistently, not showing the right attitude, then we have to trust Moyes. Be a disappointment because he's only 22, isn't he? 22 years old.
He's never had a home either. That's the other thing. He's not. If you look at his record, if you listen to that piece he did with Tim Vicker, he's never really had a home where he's stayed and he's been adored. I mean, he was at Juventus. You know what I mean? The lad's clearly got the talent all over the place. It doesn't seem like he's somebody who ruffles too many feathers either. So I'm not too sure what it is with him. But I think the other thing to add on the other side of that is that Moyes will have his favourites in regards to Decore. How many games have we all screamed saying, why is Decore starting? Why is Harrison starting ahead of him?
Well,
that's gonna. If that happens, that does indicate to you that he doesn't have full trust inside Alcaraz to start him against your bog standard championships last League One player in Jack.
I don't think either of those will be there next season. No, Decore certainly looks like he won't be. Jack Harrison, I can imagine, is going back. As I said,
therefore, though, Les, that makes the really tough decision that I'm seeing in Moyes' eyes to think that, is this the player then we pin everything on? If these have got off, is he the man that I want there to replace at least one of them and be the man that I want them to create a better position and make that position their own rather than
I think that another fact you've got to take into consideration is that he's 15 million euros. That's all he'd cost now.
Yeah, it's a good price.
It's a really good price for a player who I think he's probably done enough to meet that price tag for me now in what he's done at the club. And I also think that if he played every game ahead of Jack Harrison, we'd get more out the game. He'd be better than him. Yeah. Even if he's playing him, if he played in Jack Harrison's position on the right, he'd get way more out of him.
Dither and Dave is back.
He is. He's back, and he's back for good. Right,
Yeah.
we will leave it there, gents. Nice, interesting football chat there. I enjoyed that. Not all Everton chat. I enjoyed that little chat about where the game's going, because we kind of came across as grumpy old men, which of course we all are.
Listen, you guys are all younger than me, but I'm sure you were all told when you played the game, never pass the ball across your own goal.
Oh, yeah, Rodger, I hate it. It's like I see under 14 teams doing it, under 12. It's ridiculous. It's like these lads are like Division 3, like Saturday League kids. It's like they're not good enough to do this, and they get themselves in all sorts of tangles. But
well, you see, just to finish on there, Pickford nearly made the cock up as well, didn't he?
Oh, didn't he just
with the weekend?
Yeah.
Just let a goalkeeper kick the ball.
Oh, quickly before we go, that save. I know it's going to be a save that never was. My God.
Yeah.
I can't stop watching it. I think two of the best saves I've seen in my life are down at the Park End with Pickford. That one and the one against Chelsea.
One's exceptional. I'll give you one final hot take. A couple of seasons' time, keepers will be able to pick the ball up again.
Do you think?
From back pass, you mean? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but they can't kick it. They can pick it up and they can roll it out.
Oh, it'd be just like the 60s.
Yeah.
Was that
a rule back then, was it?
Yeah, you could pick it up and roll it, couldn't you?
No, I thought you meant that's all they could do. They couldn't kick it. They had to roll
it. Oh, no, sorry. No, they could do it and then pick it back up again.
Right. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
No, I don't mean roll it to themselves and then pick it up.
Isn't that you guys contradicting yourselves of how boring football's become if a goalkeeper can go and do that?
Just lump it long to the big man. What's wrong with that?
Give it to Beto. Give it to Beto.
Maybe not.
He's a handful.
Get it in the mix.
He's a handful.
Right. Cheers, lads. Cheers, Dave. Cheers, Rog. Thanks to everyone who listened or watched. We will be back with all the usual stuff, and we'll be back with Blue Monday next Monday. See you later.